Hi, I'm Mike Janung. I got married in 1989 to Michelle, and before I got married, I was pretty much a sex and porn addict. And she didn't know this. We got married, and not long after we got married, I was binging on porn once a day. Committed adultery with a prostitute in the summer of '91. And then that began what will become an 8-year process of recovering from my sexual sin. During that time, she wrote me a letter somewhere around 20 years ago, and that letter is printed in my book that I just released this year, The Wife's Heart, Healing from Your Husband's Porn Addiction and Adultery. And we've gotten quite a few comments on this letter. My wife actually came in here earlier this morning and she recorded the letter. I was not in the room and she recorded it. To be honest, I really haven't, this isn't the type of letter that I read very often. I mean, once every so many years, because it's still somewhat painful. So right now, what you're gonna hear is that letter she read just earlier this morning.
You asked me to write a letter about how your addiction affected me. At the time, things were a bit hazy, and I was young and didn't know what to think of everything. It really flared up my insecurities. I measured myself to other women in your eyes. I was always trying to see what you'd find more attractive in others, where my flaws were. In the beginning of our marriage, it was the worst. My insecurities plus your addiction equaled disaster. I watched porn movies a few times out of curiosity to see where I was lacking in bed. In a way, it was self-torture. I wasn't good enough. I didn't measure up. What was it that you were looking at or drawn to that I couldn't fill? I was constantly looking at women, probably more than you, to see if you'd noticed her smaller waist, her bigger chest, her whatever. I've gotten better about not letting it be my fault. If you ever decided to go down that road again and self-destruct, it isn't going to be my fault. It'll affect me, yes, but not like 12 years ago. Your sex addiction ruined the little bit of self-esteem I had back then, and there wasn't much of it to begin with. It put me on guard for everything. I was afraid that if I wasn't perfect, whatever that is, you'd leave or stray. I made you my everything, which was wrong, and when you cheated on me with a prostitute in 1991, it devastated me. Today, I still struggle with insecurity. I'm paranoid about any pictures that might be in something we might get in the mail, or even a magazine I might want to read. It's not that I think you're going to go back where you were, but that you'll see in that picture what you don't have in me.
Before I go further, I just want to note that that letter was written years ago and she's healed a lot, and so she's grown a lot. I was speaking in Italy earlier this year before an audience, and I told the story of my adultery and my porn addiction, and I had a PowerPoint slide and had a picture of Michelle and I from just 2 years ago, kind of showing where our marriage is today. And I look back, when I looked at that picture, I just lost it. And people in the audience are probably thinking, what's going on here? But it's not that I was feeling guilty or ashamed for what happened. It's just that every once in a while, the deep pain will just hit me full force of what I'd done to her heart those years ago. And it'll hit me that the person I love the most, and especially the person who loves me the most on this earth, I hurt very deeply. I've gone to the cross with it. God has forgiven me. Michelle has forgiven me. So it's not a matter of guilt or shame. It's a matter of the most important person in my life. I hurt it, but in a way that's good, because what happens is a lot of men don't get it. When it comes to what the recovery process for freedom pornography is about, they think that, okay, I went to my support group, check. I saw a counselor, check. I put software on my computer, my smartphone, check. So I've done the things I'm supposed to do. But then they go home and their wife asks them a simple question, hey, did you look at anything bad today? And they blow up or explode. And basically those guys are dead man walking, meaning their hearts are still rock hard. And the most insidious thing that pornography does to a man is not just what it does to him chemically or emotionally, but what it does to his heart. A lot of guys, they spent 10, 20, 30 years viewing pornography. The effect that it has is it cauterizes the heart, because you cannot keep going with this stuff and sinning against God willfully without hardening your heart towards the Lord, and having that stuff also have the effect of like you're pouring poison over your heart. So when you first start trying to break free from it, you don't understand, because there's this blindness, and most guys have pretty much shut down their heart. They have no emotions, they have no feelings. They're terrified of going there because they don't really take a hard look at who they are and what they become. Plus, pornography has that horrible blinding effect that you will not see until you've been off of it for 6 months to a year. So we hear complaints from wives all the time who say, hey, my husband just started trying to get help. I've done this, this, and this. What's wrong with you? Why can't you get over it? And what they don't understand is that our wives want our heart. They just don't want some guy to say, I didn't look at porn for a couple weeks. I mean, yeah, they want you to stop looking at porn, but yippee. They want to be loved. They want to be cared for. They want to be nurtured. They want to know that they're accepted as they are. Pornography has shredded all that in the wife's heart, so that as you heard what my wife shared in her letter, and I'm going to keep it together here so I don't start bawling, is that I tore her self-esteem apart. So pornography tears all that tears their guts out. So when you're into the recovery process, the last thing you want to do is say, hey, I've done my support group, I've done my little list of things. That's not ultimately what it's about. We have an 8-week men's course to help men break free from porn. We also have an 8-week course for women who want to break free from porn too, but what we tell them a lot is that this is not just about helping you stop looking at pornography. This is about making your heart come alive. Because what happens with a lot of men is they stop growing emotionally and spiritually from the point they started looking at pornography, and so they don't know how to deal with their emotions or their heart or their feelings. And when somebody like their wife starts getting close to that and kind of pushing on it and saying, hey, I want you to love me, I need to hear from you, they back her off and they say, I don't want anything to do with this. So the thing is to realize one of your goals is to have a tender heart. And if your wife can start to say, you know what, I see some changes in you in the way you're treating me, you're kind to her, you're tender to her, then you're giving her some real reason to hope that you're changing and your marriage can grow. So the thing to realize today is this isn't just about not looking at porn. There's so much more to this, and God has so much more for you and your family. So thank you.